Hello and welcome to a new episode of POSIBLE. This is the very first time I record a podcast episode in English, and I'm so happy and so grateful that I have with me Viv Adcock.
Hello.
Welcome, Viv. Viv is an active consciousness facilitator and a talk to the animals facilitator and an amazing, fabulous, gorgeous woman. So thank you, Viv, for being here with us.
You are very welcome. I'm very happy to be here too.
And we are ready to have a wonderful conversation, I'm sure about that, about what happens when you are feeling that you need to be tolerant with what's going on with your life, when you lost enthusiasm for something, an area, a specific area of your life. It can be maybe your relationship, or maybe it's your job, or maybe it's, any area of your life where you lose the enthusiasm and you feel like, I have to do this sensation, this feeling of I should do it and I can't do it, but maybe I don't want to do it. Have you been there, Steve?
Well, for a little part of my life, I did believe my middle name was Tolerant and tolerate, because apparently I may have a capacity with tolerating. Yes, I have definitely been there many times in my life. And I think when you have a degree of allowance or, awareness of other people and their lives and what they might be going through, that it's very easy to put yourself in a different position. You might make their situation or their needs or their drama or whatever's going on in their life more valuable. And, I can see how I've set that up in my life, whereby I am a natural carer, I'm a natural nurturer, and, I genuinely desire the best for everybody's life, for those that are willing to choose it. But, it's taken me about 50 something years to realize a lot of the ways that I've been doing that have been to my detriment. It's kind of like they've received the dividends and I've been more, my bank account, my energy bank account, my happiness bank account has become depleted because of how I've chosen to make their emotional needs or their demands or their situations greater than actually including myself and caring for myself in that situation.
And it's so funny because I've been there too, and it's so funny because you think that you are doing the thing so that they are happy, or that they feel that you care about them. But at the same time, since you are not doing it from a space of really, I want to do this, you are not really creating more for them or their relationship. It's not that authentic, like even if when we want it to be, because we are doing it, trying to make it authentic and true, but it's not really true, is it?
Yeah, and we know internally when we start to go against ourselves, and we had a quick chat before we jumped on, and you used a word, Liliana, that just is such a massive doorway in relation to this, because the moment you start to feel obligated, like when you can hear yourself, it's like, I have to, or I've got to, or I should. Those are your 3 red flags. If ever you hear yourself thinking that or saying that, somewhere you've cut you and what matters to you and what's valuable and inclusive of you out of the conversation, and you've tipped the scales in something external's favor, somebody else, a situation or whatever. And that sense of obligation, it in here, you start to get a bit grumpy. And over time, if you continue this and allow that, you get more resentful, and it starts to create judgment, and your world gets contracted and tight, and you start being mean, and you lose yourself, because then you start to believe that that's who you are, which, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, that isn't who you are, but it's who you are choosing to become as a reaction to that situation that you somewhere in your world have decided you have to tolerate. So you're not giving yourself any other choice in that space.
And when you say that, it's very interesting, because you can become mean, maybe not to that person because you are doing the best to keep the relationship in good terms, but maybe you are becoming mean to yourself. You are not being kind to you, doing what, like, pushing you to do whatever it is that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's also because I've been there. Like, you align and agree with what's happening because you don't want to create drama, or you don't want to create a fight, or you want to keep the peace in the relationship, and you still go against you. So it can be, a relationship, or maybe a job, or whatever scenario it is. So what would be your best advice, Viv, for someone who's going through that? How can they ignite the the enthusiasm again,
Yeah. And
to go
that's,
beyond it?
yeah, and that's a great question. I love that, because that enthusiasm is our natural fuel for creation, for living, for enjoying what we have, enjoying our body, enjoying everything the planet desires to give, the animal kingdom, food, people, the oceans, the sunshine. That enthusiasm is where you are consciously engaging with the energy of the moment, the energy of your choice, the energy of your life. And when we're making these choices / obligations, the moment we start to go into that space of obligation, it starts to erode and undermine that sense, your fuel tank of happiness. Instead of it being on full, it starts to get emptied, and you can get very tired or exhausted very quickly. You can feel overwhelmed and feel like people are demanding of you, and they're expecting more and more of you. And so, that enthusiasm, one of the tools that I've used is, okay, if I was including me here, if I was including my happiness here, what would I choose? Because I think we spend a lot of our time excluding ourselves without even realizing we're excluding ourselves. We think that our role is to make our partner happy, or our friends, family, or our friends happy, or our family happy, or our children happy. But where are you in that equation? And I think a lot of people then struggle with, but I'm being selfish if I think about me, and what about my kids, and what about my husband? And it's not about choosing from that place of, well, I'm doing this and I don't care about you. That's not inclusion. That's also doing exclusion. You're creating a fight to create the separation, to justify that you can have your choice, which also doesn't feel authentic to you. It doesn't sit right in your world, because you're not truly being authentic to you. So yeah, if I was including me here, if I was honoring me here, if I was honoring my happiness here, what would I choose?
I love it. That inclusion, Viv, because when I think most of the times when it has happened to me, and I've seen it with people who I work with, is I'm waiting for the right moment to change. Like, it's going to be after Christmas, after New Year's Eve, after the birthday, after Valentine's Day. Like, there's always something that you think you have to wait for to to make a choice, or to share your choice with the other people. And I think there's not really a right time for do it. Like, is it, you can find really a right time. There's no right, no wrong, but
well, I recently ended a 7-year relationship, and for a few months things hadn't been great between us. We were both aware of this, and we both functioned from a place of honoring each other and considering and taking care of each other. And it clearly wasn't working, and we were just doing the same crap different day. It wasn't creating greater. We were kind of stuck. We were in this Groundhog Day. Things weren't bad, but they weren't great either. And I remember I've got a 2-hour drive from where I live to where I work. And in the car drive on the way down, I was like, okay, what one choice can I make today? What one action can I take today that will create a greater future and living for me right away? So what one choice, what one action can I choose today that will create my life and living as greater today and the future? And it started to create a space. So the idea of asking the question isn't about, figuring it out or trying to choreograph, like you were saying, the conversation, or the date or the time, or because our brain tries to think, where's the best time? We want to insert a different possibility, but we're trying to compute and linearize how we can do that. But when we're functioning from energy, those two worlds don't work very well together. So, after asking this question for literally 2 hours in the car, just pondering, just talking to the universe, looking at the sky and just having this conversation, what felt like a one-way conversation, but I was doing it with conscious intention of, universe, can you show me? Universe, show me the way. What's the next step? What one choice? What one action? And I woke up the next morning, and before I fully woken up, that state where you wake up, but you're kind of still a bit dreamy. Mm-hmm. I was in that state, and what I heard was, it's time to end the relationship. And I'm like, and I woke up, and I there's no way I couldn't remember that. So I sat with it for another day, and I kept asking questions, went to bed, woke up the next morning, that same energy was there. My world felt lighter if I was to end the relationship. Third day, did the same thing again, drove home another 2 hours, asked the same question, got home, and I went, okay, is now the time? Have we done what we came here to do? And I got yes for me, and I got no for him. And I'm like, well, I can continue living my life for him because I don't want him to be uncomfortable or him to be sad or him to feel heartbroken or whatever. And I'm like, what? And continue to do this for another 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. I'm like, I can't do this. So that choice was in that moment. Okay, so if I choose this, will this create my future as greater or lesser? Because I think a lot of us hang on to things because we have this fear of, if we let go of something, we're never going to replace it, or we're going to get less, or we're going to regret our choice. But when you insert that, no, my life and living and my future become greater, the energy will show you what is greater. You may not have a reference point for what is greater or different, but if it feels lighter or more expansive, then that's the energy of what will be created if you make that choice. And the same is opposite. If I go to make that choice and it feels heavy and contracted, that's the energy that will be created if I follow through with that choice.
And may I ask, Viv, how did you choose? What was the appropriate moment to share it with him?
Yeah, well, after I'd sat with it for 3 days, because I can be a bit impulsive and a bit impetuous, I should say. And I went, no, I care deeply for this person. I care deeply for the relationship we've had. And even if it is going to destroy something, I want it to create greater for both of us. This isn't just a belligerent act of, I don't give a shit about you anymore. This is all about me, me, me. I still was inclusive of him making that choice. And I know for some of the listeners, this might be a bit of a different way to make a choice. And the more I asked the question, the more I sat with that for those 3 days and really indulged in ending the relationship. My body felt lighter, my enthusiasm, I could feel my cheeky sense of humor coming back. All of a sudden I was walking more upright because I didn't realize how I was carrying the weight and the responsibility on me as well. So there were a lot of energetic shifts as my body was showing me, the universe was showing me, hey, if you make this choice, this is how it's going to contribute to your world. And so it wasn't one thing that helped me make that choice. It was a series of energies that just kept, like traffic lights, I guess, like road signs, just showing me, if you make this choice, there'll be some bumpy days and there'll be some stuff to work through. But bigger picture, beyond all of this, is greater for both of you. And, he's very generously been in contact and said to me, I woke up this morning and asked, what if Viv ending this relationship is the greatest gift she could ever been for me and given to me? So, wow. That was incredible for him to get to that place of allowance of what is. And, we're doing this as gently and as kindly as we can with each other, because it's still quite new. So, and it never looks how you think it's going to either.
Oh, And let me highlight something you said, because I think it's super important. When you are trying to make a choice, when you're trying to find an answer, or yeah, or to change the trajectory of your life, taking into account your body, it's huge. Like when you were saying what you felt in your body when you were asking the questions or making the choice or saying something, you can feel in your body that lightness, or that all these signals, let's say, of that can let you know if you are choosing what's right for you. And yeah, so if you are watching this, what if you listen to your body and ask your body to what's going to create greater for you with your choices. And other thing, Viv, that you were saying, like when you change that, I think when we listen to this phrase of choose for you, and you think that when you choose for you, it means not taking into account the others. This inclusion you are talking about, of how you included him when you took when you made the choice, including him, it doesn't mean I'm doing it because I'm being me and I'm doing what I want, so everyone should, deal with it. But you are also including these elements of let's honor what I have with him. Let's honor our relationship. Let's honor me. Let's include his feelings and his being also in the equation, let's say. How can we go beyond, like, what's the bridge between the I'm me being me and doing what I want, like in just like an isolated phrase? How do we make the bridge to include the other parts of the relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you could spend a day talking about that alone. One thing that's always been with me for a very, very, very long time, I mean, I've been a facilitator and I've worked with people for over 30 years, helping them navigate crossroads in their life and situations and traumas and whatever else. And my target has always been to empower people and not enable. And what I had to come to terms with, excuse me, was I was actually enabling. The more I tolerated, the more I felt like I was, making it about him and not wanting to hurt his feelings or, destroy something. The more I did that, I was enabling a situation. It was, and my body was getting sick. And the thing is, too, for people watching, if something really isn't working for you, if it isn't honoring you, your body will give you the most dynamic signals. So my hair was falling out. My skin had broken out in a rash. My body was doing its best to indicate to me what was going on. And yet at the time, I didn't even put two and two together because I was still so much in my head trying to make it work and trying to force something, or it'll get better, or if I do this, or if I do that, and it was all, I was trying to bargain with my head, but my body, the energy of my body was showing me something totally different. And so eventually when my mind and my body actually came together and I started to be at one and really look at from a place of generosity of spirit. Generosity of spirit is including them and what's going to occur for them in the future. And when my desire is that he becomes happier, he has more of him, he truly becomes empowered and he'll make his own choices. When I make that choice, okay, I'm the one making the choice, but I'm doing it also as a way of, this isn't just the short-term discomfort. This is about what could be created in the future that could be far greater for both of us, rather than staying stuck in an enabling position where neither of us were honoring ourselves. We weren't truly able to honor each other. That's tolerating. We know we're not living our truth. We're not being kind and caring and inclusive of us. And therefore, if we're in pain or we're not able to be 100% us, we can't be that for them. which is a dishonoring of the relationship, you know, but it's what you're willing to tolerate. And once I did call the relationship off, I mean, it was a very bumpy time, very uncomfortable, and, you know, roller coaster for a while. And I ran a girlfriend of mine and I said, look, can you help me with this? I'm struggling and I'm in doubt, and have I made the wrong choice? And she said, can I ask you a question? And I said, yes. And she said, have you stepped into a greater space of caring for you, a greater level of caring for you than you ever have before?
Wow.
And I sat there with
Wow.
that. It just made me cry. I went, yes, I have. You know, but for anybody that was around him, his family or whatever, they'd probably think I was being cruel and self-centered, and I should just, you know, put up with it a bit longer. And, you know, and it takes such courage and such honor. So to honor means to treat you with regard and respect, as well as other people, but to regard you in your life and your choices. So it takes, I think my interesting point of view is it takes a lot more courage to break the eggs to make an omelette than it does to keep the eggs whole.
And that courage, it's like, even when you make these choices and when you are being loyal to you, when you are being honest with you, when you are choosing what's going to create something greater for you, for the other person, or for the, you know, for the job, for the family, whatever, you don't have to wait for other people to understand or approve your choices.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's that greater level of caring, because when we've been in the old paradigm of making sure everybody's needs are met and everybody's happy and we're not upsetting anybody or ruffling any feathers or, you know, pissing somebody off or making them uncomfortable, and that has been the majority of my life. It's like, if everybody around me is happy, okay, then I'm happy. But then I wondered why I'd get grumpy and resentful, and when's my turn? It's not fair. What about me? Well, I had to reprioritize myself in a way that caring, that consideration, that inclusion became it became a very different way of choosing, a very different way of functioning and being. And yeah, I'm not saying I've got it together by any means, you know, this is kind of like a whole new universe for me to play with, but the ability to choose from a really honoring and authentic place of what you know in here is true and in alignment with you, you know, that to me, that it reignites the enthusiasm for living. It reignites that sense of space and freedom and lightness and happiness that your true being can communicate again and can start contributing to your life and creating with you and leading you on this incredible journey that life is, because you've taken that time to reconnect to the most valuable resource you have, which is you. And what you desire and what you know is honoring and inclusive of you and inclusive of other people.
love it. I love that. So our question today would be, for those of you who are listening or watching, what are you tolerating in your life? What's that thing or those things that you are tolerating that are not making you feel lighter? What are those things that are not creating greater for you, that you don't feel joyful about, that you feel obligated to do? And maybe you can do a little bit of digging here and ask some questions. It's always a good time to ask, what is going to bring you more joy? What are you already sick of tolerating?
Yeah, and what would reignite your enthusiasm for living again? What can I add to my life that will make me happier than anything? Because
it's possible.
It is. It is.
Let's say this, it's possible. You know, I think sometimes people think like that's the way it is. Like, you get like, this is life. You don't have to be joyful all the time. It's just like you have to do things because you have to do things. But what if it's what if it's possible to have other reality is in place where you can enjoy it, where you can actually enjoy everything you do with your life every single day.
Mm.
What else is possible there with
What
joy
else?
and enthusiasm?
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, enthusiasm is the magical fuel that makes everything in your life just alive. You're present with everything. Everything's communicating and contributing to you and your body. You're alive, That's enthusiasm. And I think, there's a lot of people that have had their enthusiasm jaded. They've had a lot to deal with, or they've lost their way, or they've made choices like I did. I mean, I wasn't unhappy. It wasn't terrible, but I knew there was so much more available for both me and for him. So, yeah.
I have a question, Viv. Just now that you were saying this, what would you say to someone who has lost hope regarding, let's say in the area of relationships, like they lost hope because they haven't had good relationships and they are feeling like, what kind of enthusiasm can I have? Like, it's going to be the same. I cannot expect to find true love or to find a relationship that really works for me. So they are in this state of like hopeless and like
Yeah.
not really feeling connecting to the enthusiasm of creating a relationship that really can work for them.
Yeah, and that question I gave earlier was, it's been one of my companions for a very large amount of my life, especially within the last 15 years as an access consciousness facilitator. Well, what can I add to my life that will make me happier than anything? Because even if we've kind of lost touch with what it is that does enthuse us, that one question you're genuinely asking the universe, you're asking yourself, you're asking the fibers of your body to go, can you help me out here? I've kind of lost my way a bit. I know you remember. I know you know what you would like. So that would be my number one tool. If what can I add to my life will make me happier or lighter than anything, more enthusiastic than anything, add in a word in that question. But it is about adding something to your life, because I think a lot of us are drawn into this, I'll call it an illusion of we need somebody externally, or we need something externally to make us happy. When this, like I said earlier, this is really your relationship. If you're feeling a bit hopeless or you haven't found what you desire so far, what if what you're looking for is actually in here? And when we've been lured to look externally, because that's what we're taught to do, and the movies and the books and everything else say that it's about finding somebody outside of us, our true love, our soulmate, or your passion, your career. Yeah.
And may I add, when you ask that question, it doesn't have to be, when you go connect cognitively to the answer and you think, oh, because I want to find a partner, it should be this. It can be anything. When we are talking of what can you add to your life, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's tango lessons, or maybe it's, something that you have never considered.
Yeah.
Something that it's not that logical for you, like maybe it's not going to Tinder, maybe it's learning a craft or just going for a hike, I don't know. But it's so interesting how the universe moves everything, and maybe something that you today think of as something totally unrelated to your ask, in the future you can see how it was just a thread that was creating exactly what you were asking for.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because I remember there was a little tiny flower in my garden, and I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. I was not in a very good space. I felt like the world was on my shoulders, and I just sensed this beauty. And I literally got down on my hands and knees and got my camera out and zoomed in and took some photographs of this it was a tiny flower, like the size of my little fingernail. And I got inside and I zoomed it open, and I was like, wow, look at the detail of this tiny little flower. And that was reigniting my enthusiasm. Because all of a sudden I'm in absolute awe of the depth of the color and the veins in this tiny little flower, and the softness of the petal, and the detail that you stand on it, you walk past and stand on this and you don't even realize. But I literally got down on my hands and knees and took some photographs, and then went inside and put my glasses on and zoomed up. So it never shows up how you think it's going to, that level of enthusiasm, but it showed me that I could still receive incredible beauty in the most unusual of ways. It doesn't have to be some grand gesture. It doesn't have to be some massive thing. That blew me away. That flower, I still have that photograph on my phone, so enthusiasm. What is it that enthuses you that you've never acknowledged before? What is it that's desiring to enthuse you as well, that you may not know about yet?
What if you can find it, in maybe the place that you less think of? Like, what if you are just open to find it wherever it may be?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Viv, thank you so much for this conversation.
You are very welcome. Thank you for being a fabulous
for
host.
the tools.
Yeah.
I adore you. I hope you can come back for another conversation on another topic. If you have any suggestion of what would you like to have a conversation with Viv about, please send me a message. And I really hope that she can come back and talk with us about animals, because she's a Talk to the Animals facilitator, and I know she's fabulous with that topic. So Viv, I hope you can come back and talk with us about that.
It would bring me a lot of pleasure to do that. Absolutely.
I hope you feel enthusiasm about it.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode. And what's a question we can leave them with, Viv?
What else is miraculously possible for me and my living?
Love it. What else is possible? How many miracles can you find today and in the future? Thank you, Viv, and thank you everyone who were here with us.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.